Our classification system is an absolute joke, and this latest censorship debacle just proves how backwards this country is getting. I'm not gonna give you some sanitized cookie cutter breakdown, I'm just gonna give you the truth. Our government treats full grown adults like fucking toddlers. IllFonic, the studio behind Friday the 13th and Predator Hunting Grounds, is dropping Halloween the game on September 8th, 2026. It's a highly anticipated multiplayer horror game where you play as Michael Myers hunting down survivors in Haddonfield. It's loaded with brutal executions, blood, and gore. But, because we live in Australia, the classification board just slapped the game with a refused classification. This means the game is effectively banned, it can't be legally sold, advertised, or most likely imported either. The reason it got banned is peak Australian bureaucracy. The game features an interactive drug mechanic where a player uses a controlled substance to gain a gameplay benefit. Look, I get it. I understand exactly why the board made this decision based on how the current legislation is written. The guidelines for the classification of computer games clearly dictate that any game must be refused classification if it contains illicit drug use related to incentives or rewards. The moment a player uses virtual weed to gain an in-game advantage like better detecting Michael Myers or boosting stamina, the board's hands are legally tied. They're forced to ban it in any classification level, no matter what. So yes, from a purely bureaucratic standpoint, they applied the rule properly, but just because I understand the mechanism doesn't mean I agree with the ruling. In fact, I think the law itself is completely fucked. We fought for years to finally get an R18 plus rating for video games back in 2013, but it's utterly useless when garbage restrictions like this still exist. Illegally allowed to digitally butcher teenagers with a kitchen knife while playing a masked psychopath, but the second a virtual character uses a drug for a health buff, the government steps in and pulls the plug. What makes this entire situation even more infuriating is the blatant hypocrisy from the very same classification board. Let's look at the indie game Schedule 1. Schedule 1 is an open world simulation game where the player's primary goal is to build a drug empire. Players are tasked with growing, manufacturing, and selling drugs like marijuana, cocaine, and meth. The game actively features interactive drug use, allowing players to smoke marijuana, smoke meth, and snort coke. Players can even mix these drugs with other ingredients to create unusual effects when smoked, ranging from changing hair color to causing explosions. To any normal gamer, smoking a substance to trigger in-game explosions or crazy visual effects acts exactly like a buff or an interactive reward, yet Schedule 1 was handed an R18 plus rating in July 2025 and allowed to be sold in Australia. The classification board justified this by explicitly stating the interactive drug use is not linked to any direct incentives or rewards for the player. So let me get this straight. You can have an entire video game dedicated to manufacturing meth, where smoking it triggers wild in-game effects, and the government stamps it with an R18 plus rating. But the absolute second a virtual character in Halloween uses a drug for a minor survival buff against a serial killer, the board claims it violates their strict rules and slaps it with a nationwide ban. Because of this pathetic hypocritical ruling, IllFonic has confirmed that they can't sell the digital or physical product in Australia or New Zealand. Likely due to shared distribution pipelines, our backward laws are now screwing over Kiwi players too. We've seen this exact same nanny-state nonsense rule game launches before. DayZ got hit with an identical ban in 2019 because using virtual cannabis gives players a survival advantage. Because of these out-of-touch politicians writing the rules, developers are repeatedly forced to either waste time altering their games, swapping real-world drugs for fictional herbs, or skip our market entirely. It's infuriating. We're adults who pay taxes, yet the government still insists on aggressively policing our digital consumption over minor mechanics, while hypocritically waving through other games with massive drug themes. This entire situation is just another glaring reminder of how broken our censorship laws are, and how rapidly this country is sliding backwards. Anyway, that's all I gotta say on it. As always, thank you so much for giving me the time of day. I genuinely do appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Thankfully, Michael knows his way around sharp objects.